Hey, 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 everyone. How are you guys
Hello.
doing? So, tell us, how you doing? Where are you from? Always looking forward to seeing where new people are coming from. Also, for those of you who have been here before, don't be shy. Say hi to the rest of us. So, the main idea about today is for those of you who have been here before, you already know the drill, right? Every single month we host a challenge where we provide you with a different data set. These data sets can vary in different topics, different difficulties. Like, for example, this month we have a data set regarding the crime. Other times we have data sets regarding some things like logistics, in some cases, school district analysis. Some of them are relatively easy to comprehend and create some analysis. In some other cases, we also have thrown out a curveball a little bit of it and create a data set that is very difficult to create and also create those calculations and everything. But the main idea about all of these events is just to give you an environment where you guys can train, where you guys can learn, try out new things, and don't be afraid to kind of make those mistakes, right? It's completely okay to make those mistakes and learn from them. The main thing is just make sure you get something out of it. That's the main thing. Because trust me, it doesn't matter how big of an experience you have with this. I've created thousands of reports at this point. I still do make mistakes. It's fine. I just try to learn something from it. That's the main thing, right? But what we're going to do today is we're going to be going through the top five submissions for the reports. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going through the top five of these reports. We're not going to tell you, of course, who's the winner straight away. Otherwise, it kind of beats the purpose of the whole webinar. So they are going to be in randomized order. But we're going to be going through the top five and giving our personal feedback on what we think was done very excellently, what we think could have been done a little bit, better, what things to take into account when doing something similar. So that sort of thing, right? The main idea is just to kind of give you an insight on how our brain works when we're going through these reports. What are we looking for? What are we noticing when we're going through them, and so forth. So that's one of the things. But for those of you who have been here before, you already know me. My name is Ayos Paulos. I'm a senior product expert here at Zoom Charts. So you already know my voice. But we also do have a guest judge here. So I'm happy to say that one of the person next to me today is Una. Una, a few words about yourself.
Yeah, hello everyone. I also work in Zoom charts. Ice is one of my great colleagues, but on everyday jobs is my everyday job is managing the Power BI product team here at Zoom Charts. But I'm also one of the people behind Challenges team. So I'm the one who are looking at the submissions, sometimes sending feedback. I'm also participating in the final evaluation. So I've seen a lot of your work.
No pressure.
Yeah. And yeah, I can compare them. I do see, what are the biggest mistakes and also, what are the most interesting things that are brought to reports. So I hope I can share some of these things today as well.
Awesome. Short and concise. There's no need for to go too much, right? uh, so without further ado, like I said, we're going to be going through the top five. The order is going to be randomized. And of course, throughout the session, you're going to notice on the screen in a few different places, there's going to be a QR code popping up with different resources. Right now, you can see a QR code that takes you to the full gallery of all the submissions. So if someone hasn't seen them already, feel free to just scan it and browse through the submissions and see. Maybe you find something very interesting. Because the main idea about the whole gallery, the reason why we publish these reports is so you have some source of inspiration as well. Because when you start out building Power BI reports, the trickiest thing is, one is just throwing things together. That's fine. Everybody can do that. But creating a report with a purpose is a little bit more difficult. That's why we have these galleries. That's why there's an archive of all the previous challenges where you can just take a look and see, okay, I could try to do something similar to this. Oh, this approach is very interesting. I could try to understand how exactly that has been done previously and how I can implement it in this report. So it's all just basically a massive knowledge base. That's the way I would put it, right? All right, let's share the screen and go through the reports. Do Make sure I share the full screen, not just one single window. All right, that should be good. Perfect. So this month's challenge. So what do we have here? The first submission that has gotten itself into the top five comes from Akhilesh Raoud. Congratulations, Akhilesh. You have gotten yourself into the top five. Whether you won the challenge or not, we'll see. But we'll take a closer look at the report. So for this one, I'll give the first hand to Una. So feel free, Una, to tell us what was your first impression about the report and what are some of the things that you like or maybe dislike.
Yeah. So what I liked about this one is that it's well structured. It's very well structured. It's very easy to read. You just go from top to bottom. It's not overcrowded in terms of the charts. Um, yeah, it's just easy on the eyes, if I can put it like that. Yeah, there isn't like too much navigation buttons as well, so you can, it's just right there, 1 2 pages. The key data, the key insights are just right there. And I think in the most reports, sometimes people tend to overcrowd it with information, and this is not the case. And I like it. You just get, the main KPIs, the main things from here right away. The one thing that is bothering me a bit much, I think the top is a bit too busy. If I would have to change something, I would probably choose some of these pictures or icons that are less colorful. Otherwise, they just kind of busy things up, and it's just harder to read what's there. But other than that, yeah, it's a very well structured report.
Okay. Any comments about the second page or?
About the second page, the one thing I noticed that I really like that the participants use this is that the conditional formatting for the combo chart, because it really gives you, right away some perspective. What's good, what's bad. You can compare things visually right away. So kudos on that.
All right. From my side, the one thing that I noticed is I like this approach of guide to hover, right? Meaning that when I hover over it, I get this little tooltip that shows me the GIF within it. But one thing that I can tell you guys is be very careful with these. And there are two reasons why you need to be careful with this. First of all, remember that a GIF is still going to be an image that is going to depend very much how big it is, depending on the length of the recording itself. And of course, the quality of the recording. So what might happen in a lot of instances is if you have a slower network connection, if the device on the other end is just a little bit slower, he might end up happening doing like this, right? If you hover over it and hold it for like a second, now it loads in because it's cached already. But if I go over the second button, which I haven't cached, you can see it's white. And for a second, the user might think, oh, it's broken. It doesn't work. So he might take away the mouse and never even see the GIF. So one of the things that you can sort of think about or try to accomplish is give the user some sense of either there's something loading or give just a little bit of a text at the top that waiting for a GIF to load or anything that helps them to understand that it's not broken, it's just loading, right? Because it's all going to depend, like I said, on the network speed, on the device speed itself. So try to eliminate these cases and kind of overcome this in different variations. The other thing that I liked on this report very much is the way on how you decided to handle the legend in the map visual. So in our map visual, by default, you don't have the possibility to showcase a legend. But as you can see here, the author decided that, that's not an obstacle. I'm just going to create one with myself. And the way on how they did this is just a regular bar chart that doesn't have a category, but it has a legend field. So it basically splits the overall situation in the same three categories as you have on these donuts. The only thing that I would love it to do is to cross filter the information to all of the reports, because currently it only cross filters here. It's a small oversight that could probably easily fixed as well, just with a bit of data modeling. But I really do like the approach itself because it gives me a sense of, okay, what does the color represent? Otherwise, you have these three segments, but it doesn't really give you any additional insight onto what does it represent. So that's one of the things. What could have been done a little bit better is I agree with Una that the top seems a little bit too overcrowded, but I would say not even just because of the cards. I would be okay with the cards, but I think this text right here kind of takes away a lot of attention because it seems like you're trying to kind of compress everything together, right? I would probably put this as an informational icon as an insight or something like that, but I wouldn't keep it there all the time. Because other than that, it seems like everything is within the place. This text, for me, at least for me, right, that's personal opinion, it feels it's a bit out of place. It should have been done differently. Other than that, I like it. On the second page, conditional formatting, kudos for that. That's all good. This has also been done with a little bit of conditional formatting. But the one thing that I think somehow should have been separated, maybe even more, or explicitly said, is this part right here. So this is essentially a case card that allows you to investigate a single case. But the problem with this is that it only respects these changes here and vice versa, right? If I select a case, for example, here, nothing changes here. If I select a bar here or a column here, nothing changes here. So it feels like these are two completely disconnected parts of it. So that's one of the things. The guided hover, like I said, I like this approach very much. The only other last comment that I would probably do is for the switch right here. I'm happy that you added the offense group so I know what exactly it is, but I would decrease the spacing between them. It seems just a little bit too much. And for the bars itself, the color choice might not be ideal, or I would say change the tooltip style itself. Because currently you can see I don't really see the name of the series. But then again, like I said, all these most of these things are very easily fixed. It just takes you a minute or two to fix these, so it's not the end of the world. It's just small little things that you can notice. And of course, there's also an information overlay, which I always appreciate because it helps the user to understand what he's doing and how to proceed with the report. Other than that, from I'd say from my side, it's an amazing report. Congratulations in getting into the top five, and good job overall. Let's go to the next one. So the next report that has gotten itself into the top five comes from Shubaraj. So congratulations. Let's open up the report and take a closer look at it. So Una, if you don't mind, I'll take the first dab at this one.
Sure.
um, for this one, there are a few things that I would probably pay a bit more attention to. For those of you who have been in one of our previous webinars, you already have heard us saying this, but one of the things that people are going to notice straight away is going to be alignment, right? And the first thing that I notice here is because, well, the way and how you read the report is, from top left to bottom right. Kind of go through it, fine. The first thing I notice is that these are not centered within the space itself. It's again a very small little detail, right? You can easily just make it a little bit higher, but I notice that it's closer to the bottom than it is from the top. Small little details, guys. Other than that, crime date. I like that it actually tells you what it is. That's all good. That defines what exactly I'm looking at. I like also the use of different visuals, not just typical columns, lines, and areas. You're also trying to kind of play around with different scenarios and different ideas from visuals. So one of the things that you've done here as well is you can see you utilize this as sort of a legend. So it allows me to understand the three main groups, but it also works as a filter. So for example, if I want to focus on the low level of crimes, that's going to filter out. The only problem here is that throughout playing around with these, the whole mechanism I love, but you can come across situations like these where either one or the other turns blank. Remember, it's a lot better to create a measure that converts blanks into zeros because it's essentially the same value, but visually it looks a lot more appealing that when it says just a zero rather than a blank. A blank, for whatever reason, psychologically makes you feel that something just broke, right? It converts to no results. So having just a zero, in my opinion, would be just an improvement on the usability of the report itself. There's nothing wrong with the data. It's exactly the same approach. It's just a little bit of conversion there. But yeah, this one I really like as well. It's kind of like I said, I like the fact that you played around with different visuals, not just the very typical ones, right? Something a little bit more new. So this one kind of shows me, well, how many cases were resolved, how many of them are unresolved. Similar to selecting something here, if I select, for example, robbery, you can see that on this one, again, it converts into a blank. So playing around with these, it also made me feel that what I would have probably done is between the donut charts, I would disable the interaction. I would allow you to do it still based on the severity or the degree of crime, but I would disable the relationship between these two visuals just so they don't cross filter each other. A quick oversight of what's the most common crime, what's the neighborhood with the most crime. That's all good. The scatter plot, I feel, wasn't the right choice in this case because you do have even multiple levels of drill down, but it feels like even if I drill down, nothing really changes, right? So I think for a user who especially doesn't know exactly how to read a bubble chart, or in this case a scatter plot, it would just be a moment of confusion that did something just happen, or am I exactly in the same place, or basically what did I just do, right? So that's one of them that I would probably rework. On the table, I would play around with the colors a bit more because right now this is fine. This is starting to get tricky, and I think guys you can agree with me. This is definitely starting to be a bit more tricky because the value white, especially on this white gray background, it kind of disappears. So I would play around with the font color a bit more as well. And basically, the same way as you can conditionally format the background, conditionally format also the font, right? You had the white here, but go basically in reverse. The lighter the background, the darker the font. So it's just easier for the user to still read the values in both scenarios. So that's one there. The timeline, I like that one. For the method of analysis, the second page, uh, the first thing that I did, unfortunately, was this, right? On the timeline itself, you have knives and guns, which is cool. Here you have three different methods of crime. And if I select others, well, I just break the timeline. So if you did only focus on two types of crimes, just remove it from here as well. So use the donut chart to represent what you're looking at here, because the area that you left here, you're trying to tell me that these are connected, right? And it's kind of weird that I can see something that's not really on the other side. So I would get rid of it and just focus on the guns and knives and see the relative proportion between those. Table seems fine besides the font color, like I said. The scatter plot again, the line color choice and the regression line color choice isn't the greatest. It's invisible. Well, it's kind of visible, but you have to really want to see it in order to see it. That's how I felt about it. Geographical analysis. This one I think is fine. I really didn't have any issues with this one. Maybe just a little bit higher degree of the distance between the clusters. But other than that, I can still zoom in specifically into certain neighborhoods, look for specific crimes, and you even left the max clustering zoom level. So there is a point where they break down into individual nodes. So that's all good. I don't know. Una, from your side, anything you want to add?
Yes, I want to add that the very first impression you get for this report is just it's amazing. I mean, from all the reports I've seen it, this challenge, this was the one when I opened it and I had this feeling like, wow, okay, I really want to see, I really want to dig into data because for some reason it's structured that way that it really draws you in, and the design is also very, very good. Uh, I really want to comment. And sort of congratulate the participant on the use of the red color because in this challenge we get it a lot. I mean, the crime and red somehow is in our minds connected very very strongly. But in this report, it doesn't feel overwhelming. It's just like the right touch of red to get you this sort of the crime sense. But then again, it doesn't overwhelm. It just works very, very well. So yeah, and the way the different type of charts are combined, it's very easily to get to this sort of cluttered feeling. But this is not the case. It just really draws you in. It separates different type of data. You see the crime distribution, you see the crime trend, and you just focus on one block, the other, and the third one. It just works together very very very, very well. So yeah, very great first impression and very great data storytelling. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's go for the next one. So the next submission that has gotten into the top five is from Yilin Het. Congratulations. So let's open up the report and take a closer look at it. Una, you want to take the first dab at this one?
Yeah, this is the report for which I can say, the more you use it, the more you love it. Because again, this is sort of a simple report. It's not overcrowded. There is like straight to the point analysis. You get the main KPIs, you get the distribution by offense type, offense groups, time distributions tables, and sort of. So it's all there. But then the more you use it, the more you discover all these sort of small things that adds more information to this, like page tooltips. If you hover over, I don't know, either offense type or yeah, whatever,
Hmm.
you get more information. Then when you focus on the table, you notice there's a switch where you can again, change the way you look at the data. And the same goes for the second page as well. If you switch to the second page, yeah, there are those switches where you can kind of change the way you look at the data. And the map visual also, I think, works very, very well together. Another thing that is very well placed is all these, the navigation. It's placed in one sort of place of the report, the one corner. Then you have information buttons and additional information, that's in a different spot. And then the filtering and clearing filters, that's in a different place. I see in many, many reports where all of these are sort of stuffed together, and then it's very hard to understand, okay, which is navigation, which is information, and whatever other buttons are. But here it's just so intuitive. So I really, really like this approach. But I would say there is one major flaw for this report, and I'm just wondering if our viewers can drop in their comments as well. Do they notice if or not? But if you go to the first page,
Yep.
yep. Um, for me, the most sort of, and the only major flaw here is the color coding used on this first page, because if you look at the charts, and on the first impression, you get this idea that you have the same data and the same categories across all the charts, right? Because the colors are the same, the white and the orange one.
Hmm.
Once you start sort of dig into that, you can understand, okay, it's not the case. And because the participant here is using tooltip pages, there's also another tooltip that explains what that color means, right? And then there is gauge, where it's not really clear whether it's used like a pie chart, just looks like, which looks like a gauge, or the orange is actual sort of progress or KPI compared to the white space, which is not filled in. So yeah, the color coding here is the one thing I would change, and then it's it's perfect. I see the comment too much of red. The color coding probably would fix that as well. But yeah, I agree. Maybe a bit less red in the background, but the red itself doesn't bother me as much as the color coding that kind of confuses you at the first glance.
Trust me, guys, this isn't the report with the biggest amount of red that we had in the challenge. That's for sure. We had a lot of red reports this time. I think it's just because people associate crimes with violence, and that comes to blood, and but not every crime is always related to something red, right? I know also red is bad, but there are different colors on the spectrum, right? But yeah, other than like the one thing as well for me, but that was the overall. Just I think the biggest issue that I had with the color red at the end of going through all those reports is because there was just so much red. At a certain point, there's just too much of it. But the report itself, I just want to say kudos, right? Like Una said, the one thing that I like about it, sure, it might seem like the color is the issue, but the color coding is never the biggest issue. Like the color coding itself and the colors, you can always change them. Sure, they take away a little bit from the, let's say, the accent points or anything like that, but that's something you can easily play around with, right? It's not the end of the world. But the overall structure report, I love it. I love the fact that you, like Una mentioned, you have a design space for navigation. You have a separate block for the information block and for the author's link it, and then the filters and everything. It feels like everything is where it's supposed to be, right? It's not like you. I know that theoretically all these are items and you could just have them all here, but then everything is there, right? And you kind of just always try to figure out what is where. Here I know filters, I'm going to be top right. Navigation, top left. Something else, bottom left. So there is order to things. There's order to the chaos, right? uh, but other than that, across the visuals, I like the fact that they do, of course, cross chart filter. So that's one of the things. But the one thing that I'd say I wasn't the biggest fan of is the fact that even though the chart types are similar or they're using the same concept, you're using different visuals for the same purpose. Like, for example, if I select on others the white part, you can see this is going to be the native column chart. It selects only the white part. Whereas, for example, at the same time, you're using something else, like, for example, other thefts. I click on this one, it selects the whole column. So it's one of the trickiest parts. And trust me, we know this very well because we've been battling with this every single time. How do you make a report feel that is, a part of one whole thing? It's difficult. We get that, but it's one of the things that you always need to take into consideration. Um, Through the cross filtering, this was one of the things that I noticed as well. I know that I sound like a mean guy, but somebody has to go through these things. Like, for example, you can see the gauge right here, which fits nicely when nothing is filtered. But then you can, of course, cross filter the information, which is something you expect from a report, and you can come across situations like these. And now it seems like the gauge is a little bit out of place. So it's trying to figure out the fine placement of things, how they're going to be located, where's things going to be situated, and everything. Trust me, we've been playing that game for a while, and we know it's not easy. It's usually the most annoying part about everything. But the switches, I love it. It gives me a way to look at the information in different ways. For the table, similar to the previous report, probably the font color is something I would play around a bit more because the font kind of disappears on certain colors. In some cases, it might seem like it's okay, but do always remember that different monitors, of course, are going to have different display settings, different brightness, different contrast, and in certain environments, this might completely disappear in certain situations. So it's always better to look at the contrasting colors and provide something that I can easily see in different ways. So that's one of them. Uh, but the switches, I'm happy with that. That looks all good. On the second page, I didn't notice it at first, but whilst I was playing with it and Una was telling me what to do, I noticed one thing. The filters is fine, it's a good addition, but look right here. I have the bar charts, and unfortunately, when you save this bookmark, you have saved the state where these convert into tables. Trust me, this oversight happens to every single one of us. It's because you're making too many bookmarks, too many different states. It's understandable. But it's something you have to check, double check, and triple check. That's the reason why we always give these reports whenever we're building, for example, a report for a customer. We give it to another team member just to go through it again because they're going to know the things that we just miss because it's, again and again doing the same thing essentially. So you give it to somebody else to get a fresh perspective. That's one of the things that could be easily fixed. But other than that, I really have nothing against the report itself. It looks good. It feels clean. Uh, sure, few color choices, but like I said, color is not the biggest problem. You can easily adjust the color. So congratulations for the report itself and getting into the top five. Now let's move on to the next report. How to interact. Q&A session, yeah, afterwards. Yeah, questions we're going to go through afterwards. So the next report that has gotten itself into the top five comes from 𝐭𝐚𝐤𝐬𝐿. So Agbada, congratulations in getting into yet another top five. I know you're a frequent visitor here. So congratulations and once more getting here. Let's go into the report and take a closer look at it. So the report starts off on this page right here, the overview page. For the overview page, I like the whole idea of just giving me a very quick insight of the overall situation, right? I think the map kind of complements it very well, um, especially if you know what I'm talking about, right? If you know the region, if you know the shapes, then this tells you more information than you need initially because it has the conditional formatting that allows me to understand, okay, which neighborhood is going to be my highest point of impact where I want to investigate more, which are less important. Well, not that it's not important, but less important, right? So that allows me to get a quick insight on that. I can, of course, also select it, and that's going to cross filter the information. So you're already getting that initial feedback from the report itself. So that's all good. The only problem is that, as you just saw, for example, the total numbers change, but oh, no, they do. My apologies. It do change. It's just my PC is too slow. Is the fact that, for example, here, the one thing that I would probably do is just play around a bit more with the text formatting. What I mean by it is right now, it seems like it's one block of text where you have to go through every line to understand what number represents what. What I probably would have done is made it look like more of a bullet point. You know, you have your crime category, you have the percentage, crime category, percentage. So there's order to things, and it's a lot easier for the user to quickly understand what is what. That's one thing. Other than that, the first page, I'm okay with it. The second page, and the overall feeling that I had about the report is, sometimes you look at a report and you're feeling like, I think that you should add something more. But for this one, it seemed like it's a simple, nice report that just does the job. That's the first feeling that I got for the report. You can, of course, see again with the red, right? Like I told you guys, we saw a lot of red color in this report, but that's not the biggest issue. So overall, the cards nicely positioned. They're focused on one segment. The visuals cross filter information, and they have the drill downs, which is something I love to see. Uh, Formatting on multiple levels of the drill down, which is also a nice touch rather than just keeping everything on default color. So it's very nicely done. And here as well, the approach with the tables. I don't know for whatever reason, guys, right? I don't know how it happens, but every single report there is some sort of a visual that people just find and everyone has it. So in this in this case, we had a lot of tables with these columns at the end, right, on both sides of it. It's a visual that was very concurrent across a lot of reports. But yeah, overall, conditional formatting for the fonts. That's a good approach. For these ones, what I probably would have done, and this is purely just because of a visual property, right? You can see what Agbara did here is he has a donut chart which essentially emphasizes the segment that you're talking about. But because this is a lighter color and this one is a darker color, it seems like you're emphasizing on this part. Whereas on this one, since you're making the thicker part to be lighter, I can hardly see the red one. So what I probably would have done is I would have used the same color for the main slice that I'm focusing on. So in this case, I would have the highest part in the red color, here just the smallest part, just to kind of focus on that one part, and then it would kind of feel like you're showcasing a circular gauge chart. You're showing how much of 100 goes into each and every one of these segments. That's one thing that I would probably do here. Other than that, I think most of the things were pretty good. I really don't have anything bad to say about it. Una, from your side, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I think you put it very well when you said that the report just gets the job done. It's simple in a way, but time it got the all that you can get out of the data set that there is. I mean, it's not like it's simple analysis. There's a lot of things to and a lot of dimensions that are visualized, and I would say it's a comprehensive analysis, but still it's packaged in a way that it's simple and easy to read. So yeah, that's a good job here. For the first page, I think that's the only thing that kind of also caught my attention. Two things: one, there's a lot of it seems like there's a lot of unused space. I understand that the part of that is because of the map visual, but somehow, yeah, it seems like there's a lot of unused space, a lot of empty space. That is one thing, and yeah, again, the text, it's a bit hard to understand. I would split it in parts because I think it talks about three different type of distribution for the data. So that's about the first page. And overall, the design and style, it's something that's hard to comment on because it's very, very subjective. But for me, for some reason, the colors that have been picked here and those shapes on the top that are very, very familiar to me from the PowerPoint. It's somehow all of that combined together. It gave me a little bit old school feeling. So I would probably switch those to something that's more in the current style. But other than that, yeah, nothing much to add here. It's a very well designed report.
Yeah, nothing really much else to add here. Congratulations, Akbara, on making an amazing report. Kudos to you. All right, we're almost out of it. So we're going for the last report. So the last report that has gotten itself into the top five comes from 𝐭𝐚𝐤𝐞𝐚𝐤𝐬. Congratulations. Also, not the first time getting into the top five. So let's take a closer look at this one. So for this one, the one feeling that I initially had is it's structured, but at the same time, it felt to me like everything has been kind of positioned in a way that you wanted to eliminate as much as a white space as possible, but at the same time, now everything feels a little bit kind of squashed in together. That's the first feeling that I got from the report, and I can tell you straight away why. Right? To In contrast to this report that we had here, right, where we said everything has been split nicely into specific locations, here you can see this is page navigation and this is additional information and this is clear all filters. Like everything is all together, everything has the same spacing, so it kind of feels like you're making the user first of all play around before he figures out what is what. That's one thing. The other thing is that the spacing is good, but then you also have a text, you have cards, you have everything. So, like I said, the overall feeling is that everything is kind of squashed together. That's the first impression that I got from it. Other than that, the visual itself, or the cards and everything, they work very well together. You have cross chart filtering capabilities, which is good. You have these titles and everything that describe the primary cases, but the problem is that these are manual titles. So, for example, any spikes, any sort of insights that you have defined are irrelevant at the point where you decide to filter out something else. So, for example, if I filter out a specific district, the timeline changes and the same numbers and everything is not no longer relevant. So it's a fine line between creating something that is manual and dynamic. You can of course create those manual insights, but then you have to emphasize on them in a different way. Maybe there's an insight button on next to the visual or something like that. Otherwise, you create a report where parts are dynamic and parts are static. So it's a very hard mix. From a cross-chart interaction perspective, this is one of the things I'm gonna check every single time, and I'm always gonna do the same thing. You have the two timelines, right? If you take a look at them, they're actually the same, which is fine. I'm not against it. But if I filter out something here, you can see the cards, everything around me changes, but not this one. Okay, so that's what I'm expecting from it. However, if I select something here, it filters out the charts here. Why is that? So either you do the cross chart filtering or you don't do the cross chart filtering. The same behavior has to be done from both sides. In this case, I would probably say that the best approach is just make sure that these do not cross filter each other. They interact with the rest of the page still, that's all fine. You can also cross filter from here, the timeline is going to adapt, that's all good. But these two charts do not take account each other into account. That's the way I would build it, just to eliminate a little bit of that confusion that I had initially. Other than that, I like it. Like you already had here, for example, right? These insights instead of titles. I think this is a better approach with the little tooltips. Uh, the page navigation itself, I, I don't know. It's very subjective, like Una said, the design and things, but I think it's just a little bit too much when it jumps up and down, up and down, up and down. I much rather increase the size a bit rather than just make it change positions for things. Other than that, the map visual seems fine. I would probably try to find, like we had in other reports, like for example, Agbada had it where you had the districts and the neighborhoods, because we only have crimes in Washington. So pretty much every other shape that's around is completely obsolete. And if you create a layer which has these possibilities of selecting something outside, you are prone to this, where user selects something and you just break the report. Trust me, we also know that that's a fine line and it's tricky. No, don't worry, we've done the same mistakes. We also had the same issues. It's not our first rodeo, but it's something you have to think about, right? Because the one thing you have to remember is that newer users, or even not newer users, even experienced users, I've always said this, they have this magical touch and they can break everything in 2 seconds. If they can break it, probably means that there's something you can do about it. There are always, of course, cases which, unfortunately, this is the way on how the customer has requested, and it's just the way it is. Sure, those things happen. That's all fine. But if it's something that you can mitigate, try to mitigate it as best to your possibilities as you can. So that's one of the things. The slice colors probably would do something else or not have them at all, because otherwise it just seems like there's a gray circle around the dot without any further information. One thing that I want to remind every single one of you is don't forget about the power of formatting numbers. It's a very small little thing, but it does give a lot of value, especially in my eyes. Because, for example, right here, you can see 1.5K has the 1000 separator. However, here we don't have it. These are very small things, but trust me, the details is the part that's going to get you at the end of the day. But other than that, I think it's a very well structured report by itself. It works good. The cross chart filtering is there. You have the possibilities of guided tours and everything. You have the possibility of clearing the filters if you have something selected. The page navigation is there. Other than that, I think it's a very well made report. There are just few things that I would probably do differently. Una, from your side?
Yeah, I gotta say that, after all the red reports, this was a fresh breath of air. So yeah, it really stood out. But that was not just the only reason. I mean, it's still very well structured, even with all those things you pointed out. It reads very well, and it really focuses on key KPIs, key data. Just the key things to take away from the data set, and I really really love that. There are two things that I will disagree with you on.
Sure.
One is the navigation and the user guide and the reset button. That part. Uh, sure, they can be split up, but if you are putting them in one place on one column or on one row, then probably this would be a way to go to visually separate them. The navigation is formatted differently, and then these two are formatted differently. So for me it's still easy enough to understand. And then usually I don't recommend putting extra text in the report, but somehow in this case it doesn't bother me. I guess maybe because it's placed well, it's proportioned well, and I also think that those small takeaways for each chart, it's okay to have them. Of course, the cross chart filtering part kind of breaks it, but then it can be adjusted dynamically as well. But what bothers me is that because you have these takeaway sentences there, you don't have chart titles.
Mm,
And and that for me it made so much harder to understand what the chart is about right away. So I kind of had to take a moment, a minute, to read through that and okay, what is that, what I'm looking at. The takeaway is fine, but just to quickly understand, okay, that focuses on crime distribution by type, or that's a timeline. That was the missing part for me, so that's something I would change.
mhm.
But yeah, but other than that, good report.
All right. So we have gone through all 5 reports. So our question to you guys is, what do you think? Which of the reports is going to be the winner? Meanwhile, while you think about it, I think we could go through some Q&A questions, Una, right?
Sure.
Okay, we have one question. Sure, that's we're going to go through it. So Sugathi asked how to interact with a page in a single click. So interacting with a page navigation to make sure that you can activate this with a single click. It depends on the element that you're using for that navigation. If you are using, for example, in this case, let's say it's not a page navigation, but you're actually using a field parameter to switch between different values that you're showing in the chart, you wouldn't need to do anything else because essentially this would be a slicer, and slicer doesn't need to don't need to do anything else. However, if you're using this as an item, which is, for example, a button which is tied to a bookmark, in Power BI Desktop, you always have to hold down Control. But something to remember is that, remember, guys, Power BI Desktop is the developer's environment. In order to test out how the report would act in a live environment, you need to publish it to services. Because once in the services, you don't need to hold down the control. You just simply click on a button and it does the action underneath it. The reason why you have to hold down control in Power BI Desktop is quite simple, right? Imagine if you're building a report and you have a lot of different bookmarks, like for example, even in this case, right? You have the page navigation, you have the info overlay, which has even a guided tour underneath it and everything. You have the information pop ups, the filters menu, the switches between the visuals. Imagine if every single time you accidentally click on one of them and would just start jumping around. It would be just a complete nightmare. So that's why in a development environment, you're holding down the control to activate the button. If you just want to select it, you click on it. However, in a live environment, you don't have to hold down control. So you're mitigating that issue straight away.
Yeah. Okay, so what's the difference of dashboard and the report? So I think there are two type of answers here,
Yeah.
depending on the context. Depending on the context, because in the business environment, when you talk about report and a dashboard, they are usually used interchangeably. So it kind of means the same thing. It's just dashboard. It's something that's more often is used at the C level for CEOs, for managers, and it's sort of like more, it shows the more main KPIs. It doesn't go too much in details. It kind of shows you the overviews. And the report could be something a bit more detailed, but as I said, those are synonyms. But if you talk about this specifically within Power BI, those are two different functionalities because what you build with Power BI desktop and then publish to services or the web or whatever, that is usually a report. But in the Power BI services, there is this option to pick and choose different charts from different reports, and then you can pin them to one specific sort of new report. But then it's just like a snapshot of each of those charts within that one report. They do not work together. I mean, those are just like the snapshots. So you kind of build your own dashboard. So in Power BI environment, that is called a dashboard, right? So dashboards are not built with Power BI Desktop. Those are compiled from different reports together.
Yeah. And the one thing that you just always remember is that, for example, the way and how I usually explain it to myself when I was learning. A report is a single instance, right? Think about it as an Excel file. You can still have a lot of sheets, you can still have a lot of pages, you can have different visuals and everything, but that's a single instance. There's one report, that's one single report. However, a dashboard is a compilation of multiple reports. It can have elements from 10 different reports, but it's not someplace where you cross interact with them. Once you click on one of those visuals that you have pinned to the dashboard, you're automatically transferred to the report that was analyzing that KPI, right? The report is a single instance, dashboard is a compilation of reports. That's the way I explain it to myself.
Yeah, from CEO
Oh, definitely.
perspective, yeah, because as I said, there are different contexts, and in the management context and business environment, dashboards probably are more used because that's like dashboard is like a thing where you go and see, what's going on, what are the main KPIs, you keep track on things. So That's probably where it comes from. Yeah, but within Power BI, it does have a specific meaning.
Yeah. Because if you even if you just search, right, sales dashboard, this is what you typically expect from a report within Power BI, but it's called a dashboard. However, if you go to a report, it starts to look like a more detailed analysis where you're looking at entries and things like that. Okay, what else? Hello, I do not have work or school email. Please, how can I publish project of RBI with personal email? You cannot publish with a personal email, but if you want to compete in, for example, our challenge, what you can do is sign up for a developer's license. So, for example, if you sign up in our website on the challenges, Alexander can probably paste in also, of course. Don't worry, guys, I can authenticate. That's my email, I hope. Security first, right? So, quickly gonna log in. Ah, it's already closed. Yeah. Do we have any active ones? This one begins in April. Fine. Register. I just want to show you where you can do it. Here we go. In my case, I have already a developer's license, but in your case here, you're going to have an option to sign up for a developer's license. What the developer license means is we issue a new Power BI account to you, which also has access to all of our visuals. Sure, you do have some limitations. You cannot use this for commercial purposes, right? Makes sense because it's a developer account for challenge purposes, but it gives you the rights to, for example, create reports. And if you're participating in a challenge, once you submit the report itself, we're going to send to you back a published web link, which you can use then in LinkedIn and other resources.
Okay, so I think that was the
Any
last
more
question
questions?
we had.
Cool. All right, I'm gonna quickly, Alexander, could you quickly hide my screen? There we go. Gonna find the right report. Again, gonna double check. I don't want to look like a complete dum dum, which is the winner. You don't want to fail at these times, right? There's a lot of times when you can fail, but this is not the one of them. All right, so with a little bit of a drum roll, the winner of this month's challenge is go live. Push. There we go. Yelin Head. Congratulations. In our opinion, from all the reports that we had in this month's challenge, yours was the most structured and well designed. Sure, like we said, right? Every single one of them has a few bits and bobs that can be improved, but overall, we think that this was the best report in this particular challenge. So, congratulations to you. Congratulations to every single one of you who participated. Remember, guys, not getting into the top five doesn't mean that your report was bad or anything like that. No, it just means that these five particular reports just got most of the points. Other than that, the one thing that you always want to take away from these challenges and from the participation is there's probably things that you can improve, and that's fine. As long as you're improving, learning new skills, trying out new things, new visuals, you're going to get better at report building. And who knows, maybe next month your report is going to be in the top five, first of all, and then it's also probably one of the winners at one point. So don't be discouraged. Try out for the next one. The next challenge is going to be live probably next week, also for Onyx. So, yeah, thank you so much, and I'll see you in the workshop. Una, any last words?
Yeah, do we need to mention those
Oh, yeah,
me
shout outs.
promotes?
Yeah, we do those. We do have few of those.
Yeah.
Let me just quickly open up.
Yeah, I just gonna comment a bit while you're looking for those. Yeah, I think in each challenge we wanna emphasize, those who we see that have done a good job, and actually there are a lot of people participating that have done a good job. But these usually there are things that stand out on the whole bunch, and sometimes these reports do not get into the top five, but there are still things that we wanna emphasize, and this time we found three. Uh, I would call them, these are three reports with steps and right direction. because there are a lot of details, that can be improved. But particularly for this one, I want to say and congratulate on the bold design choice, because it is red. Again, this is one of those red reports. It is red, but this is a well choice of red, because somehow you managed to combine the colors, the black, the white, the gray, the red together, so it still works. It's still very well structured, so it's definitely a step in the right direction. Just a couple of more things that needs to be improved to get to the top five. So the next one, this one, there's a shout out for, I would say, dramatic, cinematic, something like that. Because we don't usually encourage people to bring too much of design and images and pictures in report, especially in the business environment. But for this challenge, and for this topic, this worked, because you open it and it kind of transfers you to some kind of detective, either movie or series or something. It just gives you this very strong feeling, and it doesn't interfere with the data. It still invites you to work with the data. So congratulations on this very well balanced you know storytelling and the data part. And the third one, this one, really, this is a shout out for very well structured, clean, simple, easy design. It's just very easy on eyes. You just open it and just, again, uh, it's very well designed. It's easy to read, and yeah, just a couple of things to improve. But from design perspective, very good job.
And of course, a shout out for not making another red report.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, guys, like we said, every single one of you is a winner in a way, anyways, right? You did manage to participate, you did manage to submit the report. Every single one of you who does that does get a feedback, which allows you to improve the reports regardless. So at the end of the day, the only thing that I could recommend is don't get discouraged by not getting into the top five. Just keep on going and improving your skills. That's what it's really all about.
Yeah, and I mean, when we evaluate this, there are multiple persons, people who are doing this, and there's a reason for that, because everyone has their own way at looking at reports. Even we have those specific criteria, it still varies from judge to judge. And when it comes to the final results, some of these are so close together that we have very thorough discussions in deciding, okay, these deserve to be in top five, but that doesn't mean that the sixth, the seventh, the eighth is that much worth. It's just we have to choose five.
Yeah.
And yeah, but just keep participating, keep improving your skills. And I've seen many cases where some people who kind of started with being somewhere in the middle or even the bottom of the challenges raised to the top in a couple of months. So
Yeah.
all is
There's
possible.
a lot of interesting stories throughout these challenges. We have participants who are participating for a lot of different ones. We have participants who started relatively recently, but their skill is drastically increasing with every single one of them. Some of them have already received job offers. It's fun to see how you guys are developing your skills as well. So from our side, I think massive kudos to every single one of you. Thank you for participating, and I hope that you're still enjoying these challenges, right? That you're not losing hope to kind of get something new out of it. All right. Well, thank you every single one. Um, have an amazing rest of the day, evening, whatever time zone you're currently in, and we'll see you in the next webinar.
Okay, thank you guys. Bye.
Bye, everyone.